Hi, everybody. Welcome to Backstage at Speaking Your Brand. I'm Diane Diaz, lead speaking coach at Speaking Your Brand. And today I'm really excited to bring to you three of our recent graduates from the Thought Leader Academy who are going to share with you for the very first time anywhere the first 10 minutes of the talks that they worked on during their time in the Thought Leader Academy. So they will be delivering these talks that wrap their professional insights with personal stories. So look for that as you're listening to these talks. And then as you watch them, listen for how they're using story, how they're telling stories, the detail of the stories, and how all that comes together with the professional insights that they also share in their talks. After they deliver their talks, we're going to have a little roundtable discussion where we'll just dig a little bit deeper into what it was like working on their talks, bringing in stories, their time in the Thought Leader Academy, and they'll be able to share their experiences with you on that. So let me start with just a very brief introduction of each of our three Thought Leader Academy grads with us today. And interestingly, all three of these women are all from Tanner Health System, which is great. So we have a whole team here. So first we have Jill Anelli, and Jill is Senior Vice President and Chief HR Officer at Tanner Health. Then we also have with us today Michelle Hone, and Michelle serves as Nursing Vice President and Chief Nursing Officer at Tanner Health. And then we have Paula Gresham, who serves as Administrator and Vice President for Willowbrook at Tanner Health. So welcome to all of you. And then we will kick it off first by welcoming Jill Anelli to the stage. You can take it away, Jill.
Well, thank you so much. I'm just going to go ahead and share my presentation. Okay, so give me a thumbs up. We're ready to go. Okay, so enhancing workforce engagement in healthcare with the LOVE framework. And many of you may think to yourself, does love belong in the workplace? And I say yes, of course. And love is something that resonates with me. I love love because I love people. I love developing people. And the framework that I've developed is all around career development and why it's so important in our workforce today. So say employee engagement one more time. This is a hysterical story from my past. My father worked in the civil engineering field, and he did not like HR. And it's safe to say he probably despised HR because he saw them as party planners, very tactical. They set the rules, and nobody could break the rules. And so growing up, I just heard a very negative connotation about the world of HR. And funny enough, as a young person, coming out of high school, going into college, I pursued a business degree, and the first position I landed was in HR. So, well, it wasn't completely premeditated to join the HR profession. That is where I found the balance between business and my love of people. So, unfortunately, my dad passed away at a pretty young age of 58. And that was about mid-year, mid-career for me. And my brother and I were talking one day, and I told him, in a joking way, wouldn't dad be so proud that I am the leader of the most useless department in the whole hospital? And it just makes us think, I love HR and I understand how HR is strategic to healthcare and to our industry, but also many different industries. So I have a question. What keeps you up at night or wakes you up early in the morning? And as a leader, much of it could be related to your employees. And or the turnover. You hire a new employee, you're excited about them, and then 3 months down the road, they quit to go to another position. So we want to wake up. You want to think about your employees in this perfect visual, that they love their patients, they love their coworkers, and most of all, they love their paycheck. But unfortunately, the real obstacles get in the way. They're calling out sick at the last minute. They have a skill gap, but nobody's identified how to fill it. They like the company and the brand, but they're really not satisfied with the position they're sitting in. Or maybe they're just burning out by doing repetitive tasks and they're looking for career advancement and development and they don't know who to talk to. So I say yes, bring love into the workplace because when we look through the framework of what love stands for, I think you're going to love how to make this a reality with your business model. So the LOVE framework stands for learning, ownership, vision, and evolution. And all of these go back to the employee and creating an environment where they can have a one-on-one dedicated professional to talk them through the evolution and their journey of them staying in your organization. So how do your employees identify which things to learn? And also, do they want to upskill or reskill? Sometimes we have the younger folks coming in and they want to upskill. And then we've got the older generation that wants to consider reskilling as they're looking at retirement and trying to back their career down to a more manageable schedule, maybe less heavy lifting, something where they can stay with their benefit plan, but they don't necessarily want to be the hard charger on the unit anymore. So the learning environment is so broad nowadays. Machines are learning. And it was funny, I told a leadership group recently here at the hospital in one of the talks I gave, I said, the machines are learning, but what are you learning? And even leaders need to have a career development plan. What are they keeping on the horizon as they pursue their journey here in our health system as well? So there's podcasts and there's, online videos and there's our learning management system. There's just a plethora of opportunities. But if the employees haven't decided what to hone in on, all of it becomes so overwhelming, or they invest in something that really isn't going to pay dividends for themselves or to their future position in our facility. So I have a funny story that I found, and I think it resonates in our leadership team right now, every day, because we say, who in your organization does an employee reach out to for guidance? And there's a huge assumption being made. There was an important job to be done, and everybody was sure that somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry about it because it was everybody's job, and everybody thought that anybody could do it, but nobody realized that everybody wouldn't do it. It ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did it, what anybody could have done. And Charles Swindoll wrote this, and I just thought it's so fitting. And I've shared this with my leadership team before because there's a lot of assumptions that we make that leaders have one-on-one time dedicated to developing the employee's future, when in fact it's not being done. So we've developed an on-site career development center with one dedicated professional to have that very conversation. We want our employees to own their leadership development plan or their employee development plan. So when it comes to vision, can your employees articulate a 6-month, 1-year, or 5-year plan? And the truth is some can and do navigate the space very well on their own. But for a majority of our employees, they just need help setting their own vision. So the vision is crafted with the career development specialist. They look at their aptitudes and previous skills and ask them deeper questions about what brings them joy. What's that one weird thing that drives them, that makes them unique? And how can they apply that in the workplace? And then the employee begins to job shadow and find those opportunities that really align to their purpose and how they can make that meaningful connection in the hospital. So as we look at evolving an employee's career, how many of you, by raise of hands, have those externships and internships and even apprenticeships through the Department of Labor? And then I want you to keep your hand up if you want to know sooner who would be the best fit for that training program. Because the truth is, sometimes we have internships or apprenticeships available and they go unfilled because employees have not yet identified that they want to be there or that they should be there. And we also talk to our technical schools and universities in our area and find out that we've got really important healthcare programs happening, and they have seats that aren't filled because, again, employees haven't found their connection to that space yet. So the evolution is that we have a strong brand in our community. As a rural hospital setting, we have employees that want to live and work in this community because they've been raised here. And we have to help them find that next step in their evolution of their career. So the goal is that you can have employees. When you wake up, you can know for sure that they love their patients, their coworkers, and their paycheck because they helped craft that next step in their journey. So the next step for you is my challenge. My challenge is consider if you already if you do not have a career development space dedicated for employees to refer themselves or for a manager to refer an employee to. Create that safe space and have a skilled professional available to meet one-on-one with your employees because it does matter to our community and to the profession and the people that we serve. So I say yes, bring love into the workplace, not only because I love people, but because I know it's one way that we can enhance our employee engagement. So if you like the things I shared today, I encourage you to scan the QR code so that you can look at Tanner Healthcare more deeply and connect with me, and I can help answer some questions you might have. I just want to thank you for tuning in today and listening to my framework and what I've learned here together. Thank you so much.
Oh, Jill, that was fantastic. Great job. Oh, your slides are beautiful. You did a wonderful job. It seems so natural, like you're just talking to us about what you believe in. So I love it. Well done. How did it feel?
Thank you. It felt natural. I
Good.
appreciate you giving us the opportunity to develop the framework, but also to practice it. And I think in work, we get so busy with having to just put our information together and share it in short order that we forget the value of practicing. So I would say that on my third practice round, which I consider this as well, it flowed because I've done it before. And so it gets
Yes.
better each time. So thank you.
Yes. Oh, of course. Yeah, wonderful job. All right, now we are going to welcome to the stage Michelle Hone.
All right. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
To get your slides up there.
This is Nurses Superpower, how to speak up, lead, and find joy in our chaos. So as nurses, our superpower lies in the strength of our voice. It is our voice that not only advocates for our patients, but also for our colleagues and actually ourselves. It is a tool that empowers us to speak up, be heard, and create meaningful change in the healthcare world. When we learn to express ourselves clearly and confidently and professionally, we can open doors to new opportunities for growth and innovation. Thinking outside of the box, our voice can bring fresh ideas and solutions to the table, allowing us to stand out and make an impact. I hope this inspires you to put yourself first, find that spark of excitement and motivation, and take your practice to the next level. Please watch closely and see if you can look for the opportunities.
Whoa, that's not good.
Oh, I don't need this. I'm already late.
Somebody will come. Anybody out there?
Do you have a phone?
No. Sorry. Somebody! Hello? There are two people stuck on an escalator and we need help. Now, would somebody please do something?
Help!
I don't believe this. You gotta be kidding me.
I'm gonna cry.
Well, there's not enough left to do, is it?
Does this look familiar? When we're in a situation where we expect either a change or a different decision or something to happen, but we expect a different outcome with the same ideas or solutions? Well, I think we've all been there. So we need to start thinking outside of the box, express ideas, and provide a different way to look at the same problem. So when you look at nursing and we realize we have to have a voice, understand that our voice has to happen at all layers. I, there too, have been in your shoes. I started off working actually outside of the organization. When I went to school the first time around, my dad pushed me into the business world and told me that's where I needed to go, which was fine. I advanced. I did really, really well. But then I stepped aside because I had 3 children in 4 years. I was getting ready for my third child to turn one, and my husband asked me what my 5-year plan was. And I told him, "What are you talking about? This is my 5-year plan." And he said, "No, no, 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 no. When the kids get older, what are you going to do?" And I said, "Oh, trust me, I can find plenty to do." But he knew I was ambitious and he knew I was going to get bored at home. So I did tell him I would love to go back to school and become a nurse, which is exactly what I did. So I've worked as a tech. I've done an externship. I've done an internship. I've been a floor nurse. I've been a charge nurse. I've worked in all kinds of different organizations. I've worked with shared governance, magnet, academics. I've been a nurse manager, a director, and now an administrator. What I'm trying to say is I understand all levels of nursing, and that in each level, we do have the ability to stand up and be heard. I want to tell you a little story about how your voice can change a situation. So there was a young little 10-year-old who was out there having a great time with her friends, and she jumped into the lake, and unfortunately, she never came back up again. So when they pulled her away from the lake and did her CPR on her, they ended up bringing her to the emergency department. And she was okay, but the physician decided he did want her to stay overnight and just observe her. While she was on the unit, we realized that things weren't looking as positive as we thought they were going to. The next day, she started spiking a fever. She was getting, her heart rate was going up. And what was happening was the physician kept thinking that this had to do with her going underwater for a period of time. I turned to this physician and asked them, let's look at this situation just a little bit differently. She jumped in the water. She's 10 years old. Don't you think that maybe she could have swallowed some of this water? And it's lake water. It's not pool water. Do we think maybe she has an infection of some kind? Well, after the physician did a few tests, we did learn that she did have an infection. We were able to change the treatment and she was able to get better. Nursing is like that constant game of whack-a-mole, right? When you think you got a handle on something and something new pops up, new technology, new practices, new advancements in healthcare. We're in the middle of that never-ending cycle of an upgrade. Basically, things that make us look like we're in the nursing version of a reality TV show where the challenges survive this shift. Does that sound familiar? But here's the thing. We've got to keep up with these changes, right? So how do we do this? We need to provide insight and generate a conversation, providing solutions rather than complaining, and keeping an open mind to compromise. Just like speaking up with the physician, looking at the situation differently, we can create a yes by asking the right questions, specifically kind of using the 5 whys, which is a problem-solving situation that helps with different ideas. So if you're thinking, oh, my boss isn't listening to me, or my ideas don't really matter, take a step back and ask yourself why. Is it because you're not asking the right question? Or maybe you're not asking the question clearly. Is it possible that perhaps you're approaching that without coming up with a solution? Or maybe even with a negative attitude and not wanting to be open to compromise. But identifying these barriers and adjusting your approach just a little bit can shift that conversation from a no to a yes, one thoughtful question at a time. So using your voice by sharing your ideas and following through with them, it makes your reality come true. It's easy to sit back and complain about what is not working. But let's understand that the real change is from getting involved, offering new ideas, and working together to find the solution. So let me give you just one more quick example of how that can happen. So we have a forum here where nurses can put in to the nursing CNO suggestion box about different things that they want to do. And here we were using something called a walkie-talkie, right? And it's going in and no one is really responding to it. It's just stuff overhead. And I really didn't like that. I wanted to have a phone where people could actually physically talk to someone. Well, in one of the suggestions, a nurse said, "Hey, by the way, I want you to know that this is taken away from our teamwork. I understand what you're saying, privacy and everything, but we were really using those walkie-talkies to really help us, and everybody could come assist if there was something that needed to happen." And I told her, I said, I gave her my reasons why I didn't really like the walkie-talkie, but I told her, if you give me evidence-based practice, you show me how to make this plan work and show me a pilot with metrics, I'll consider it. She respectfully and with persistence came back with her proposal. We did a 4-week trial and we were both extremely excited with the numbers that came back from that trial. Needless to say, even though I didn't like it showed that there were good catches that occurred, teamwork happened, and we're moving forward with a touch to talk feature on those phones. So here's the thing. You got to believe in yourself. Change can happen. I know it's scary. It's like a big monster, but here's the twist. Let's look at that change as a superhero in disguise. Change can bring positive transformation. Don't shy away from it. Embrace it. Break out of that little box of yours. Create a culture where your voice is being heard. I know you can do it. Go ahead, speak up. You've got this. Thank you.
Fantastic. That was so good. Well done. How did that feel for you, Michelle?
I think, like Jill said, after going over it and over it, and making sure, I think one of the things that you taught us in this was that creating stories
Yes.
really help with
Yes.
it. And so I think for me, bringing those back to those stories is what really helped strengthen and make that story better or make that speech better than it was before.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Story is where it's at. And we'll talk about that more in our roundtable too.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you for that, Michelle. And Paula, you are up next.
Perfect. Today, we're going to talk about being a mindful professional. Some of you may relate to this moment when you feel the weight of figuring out life after college. Like Rachel, you may have a big goal, but it can be very overwhelming and unclear. I felt this way. I had a very intimidating and interesting life after graduation story. So imagine feeling like your whole life has been planned out just perfectly. Getting ready for graduation, planned, check. Dream job laid out right in front of you after graduation, check. Dream guy and marriage even laid out after graduation, check. Only to be dissolved when one day your mentor, my mentor and advisor, called me into her office and said, "I can't allow you to graduate unless you do one more internship in an area of expertise that your degree will allow that you have not explored." Obviously, I was devastated. I argued with her and said, "But I have my whole life planned out in front of me. I have all my check boxes checked." She was not impressed. She maybe told me I was being a little bit dramatic, and maybe I was. But I had to roll with it. So I signed up for my next internship, and the first day of my rotation was in a psychiatric hospital. I fell instantly in love. I fell in love with the energy. I fell in love with the empathy that I felt for others. I fell in love with everything about mental health services. And since then, I've worked in the mental health space for about the last 28 years. I've had extensive experience in counseling people of all ages and working with all levels of care. I was going with the flow. I was checking all of the boxes and I had my whole life planned out in front of me. But without someone coming into that space and saying, let's think a little bit harder and maybe a little deeper, I may not have found my passion. So today, I want us to talk about what your goals are as you transition from a college student to a working professional. And by the way, I love Friends. I think it's a classic series, right? And I think it's a great representation of individuals trying to figure out this crazy thing called life after graduation, right? So, are you just getting started? Maybe are you in the middle? Are you preparing for graduation, or are you still undecided? This is the time that you need to explore and find who you are. I'm going to challenge you today to start learning who you are, not who society tells you that you are, or anyone else for that matter. That may be your parents, your siblings, your friends. I'm going to challenge you to really dig deep and figure it out for yourself. There will be some challenges ahead. Some of those that we face may be perfectionism, immediate gratification, pressure to know what's next, and finances. But for me, I want us to consider the real problem for most young women today is looking outside of ourselves for who we are and what we do instead of within. Today, we'll focus on a few things: how to navigate that transition from college to career in a way that aligns with who you are, overcoming those obstacles that we just spoke about, finding balance between work, life, and professional fulfillment, and a few real life stories of that people who have made nonlinear transitions and found success. We're going to do that using the mindful professional practice framework. Manifest, identify, nurture, and design. This approach will allow you to reduce stress and align with your true self and find who you are professionally. Manifest. Discover who you are. Probably the most challenging, right? Greatest challenge in life is discovering who you are. And the second greatest is being happy with what you find. So we're going to do that. If you've ever compared yourself on social media to someone else, raise your hand. I think we've all done that. It's easy to get caught up in scrolling, and then finding ourselves, comparing ourselves to others, thinking, oh, they've got it all together and I don't. So I want to continue to challenge you, stay away from the check boxes and block the noise out and focus on what makes you unique, acknowledging your struggles and where are the areas that you truly need to work. Identify and know what you want to work on. I recently worked with a young adult female who was following a very similar path that I was with regards to checking all the boxes, constantly on social media, comparing herself to her friends, hearing the noise of her parents that she had to have it all figured out. And in fact, she was living an imposter life. She was doing exactly what everyone else was telling her to do and not what was making her happy. She started struggling with anxiety. She started struggling with depression. And together we worked through her feelings of self-doubt and ultimately found the area that she felt most authentic with, which was completely different and opposite of what she was being pushed into by both parents and society. So recognizing those areas that need growth and growing those areas are extremely important. Also, nurturing and giving yourself grace. Stop the cycle of thinking that you must do more to be better. You can be successful without overworking yourself. Can anyone think of a time when you worked so hard on something but still felt short of success? And then telling yourself, if I would have just done a little bit more, if I had just studied a little bit harder, if I had just practiced one more problem, then I would have gained success. Giving yourself grace and understanding that working harder is not always what leads to success, but perhaps working more different is what leads to success. And then one of the most important is design, which is creating your own path. So creating your own career path that aligns with all of your goals. And as you gain more insight and understanding about yourself and who you are, don't be afraid to make changes. I worked recently with a young female psychiatrist who told her story, shared her story with our treatment team, and it was a very touching story. She actually, her whole life as a child, she had dreamed of being a kindergarten teacher. And so, because that's what she thought she wanted to do her whole life, she went to school, dedicated her education to education, and became a kindergarten teacher. About a year into that experience, she realized that this was not her path. She was not meant to be a teacher. She had to redesign her whole life. She already had a mortgage. She already was living a life of a professional. She had to reconfigure that whole life to go back to school to become a physician, and she ended up becoming a psychiatrist. She was happy living an authentic life, but it did take her strength to be able to make those changes to be able to live that authentic life. So today I want to ask you, what would it feel like to confidently know that you're on the right path, doing exactly what you love and being true to yourself? Overcoming obstacles and changing the narrative. So when you leave today, I want you to do two things. One, list 5 things that you truly enjoy. Why am I asking you to do that? Because identifying what you enjoy helps you see what you can be and do. Step 2, don't view moving into professional life as a checklist, steps, or a ladder to climb. Put your checklist away and instead look at the journey. It's full of ups and downs, twists and turns, and navigating your career becomes much easier when you can see it this way. I challenge you to be mindful. Instead of comparing, feeling like you're not enough, or letting others dictate who you should be, focus inward. I'll leave you with a quote from the famous, beautiful, wonderful Beyonce. I don't gamble. I don't like to gamble. But if there's one thing I'm willing to bet on, it's myself. And I challenge you to do that today. Thank you so much for coming and experiencing my talk. And I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed giving it.
Fantastic. Well done. Great job, Paula. I hope that felt good.
Yes, and I think my voice absolutely held out.
It sure did. So, yay for that, right?
Yes.
Well, good. Well, first of all, thank you all for delivering those 10 minutes of your talk. I know that you worked so hard on your overall talk, but then also condensing it down to 10 minutes, which is no easy feat, but you did a great job. Beautiful slides, everyone. Fantastic job. You all seem so polished too, which I'm just thrilled with a fantastic job. I had no doubt, but well done. So let's jump into a few questions so we can share with our viewers what it was like working on your talk. So I want to start with just talking about what it felt like. And so maybe let me start with you, Paula, since you just delivered your talk, and then we can let your voice rest a little bit more. What did it feel like digging into the personal stories and incorporating them into a talk when, maybe that's not what you're used to? Like, what was that like for you?
Yeah, that was very different for me. I typically stay away from, personal experiences, especially in the professional arena. But I do honestly think that setting the stage for the audience to know you a bit better, and then also for it to validate your experience, and establish some credibility. I think it's important.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. Anyone else want to share your thoughts
Well,
on
I would
that?
just say that, especially when I share the story of my father and I say something like, and my brother and I thought it was funny, that is a real story of my life. And I do think it's funny. And my brother and I laughed about it, but you don't know if everybody else is going to think it's funny. So it's kind of like, do you want to open yourself up and be that vulnerable? Because people are like, yeah, that was kind of a dumb story.
You
You just
know,
think that.
that's a great point that you shared, Jill, because we talk about this thing, and I'm not sure, I don't think we coined this, and somebody else talked about this, but we often repeat it, which is that you can sometimes have what we call a vulnerability hangover when you share stories like that. Like you're not sure how did that land, or should I have even said that? But we always say, just like a real hangover, vulnerability hangovers will pass. And so telling the story is worth it because it does make that deeper connection. So kudos to you all for sharing personal stories. And Michelle, how about you? How did that idea of pulling out personal stories and incorporating those into your talk feel?
Yeah, so that's probably something I've never done before,
Yeah.
just kind of had a personal thing. It really helped me when I wanted to incorporate something to be able to give examples of real life situations. And sometimes, like Jill said, it's you think it's important or you think it's funny or you think it's validating what you're saying, but did it really? And so I think that's where the vulnerability comes out is did you connect with your audience like you think you were going to connect with that story?
Oh, that's a great point. Yes, which I think is, one of the reasons why it's important to have a story bank where you're collecting these stories, and then depending on who the audience is, you can pull out stories that are appropriate depending on that audience. So, but you all did a great job, and I will say too, just from the standpoint of being the coach on the other side, obviously you all were very open to pulling in personal stories and really just like sharing your stories with us, with myself and Carol, so that we could kind of help you find the right ones to go in the talk, which was very helpful. So kind of along those same lines, then, you all are very accomplished in your careers, clearly. You all are very experienced. You've been in your industries for a long time. You're very well established. You're very accomplished at what you do. How does it feel to shift from more businessy sort of presentations, let's call them, to more storytelling style talks? What is that like? Is it odd? Is it uncomfortable? Are you excited by it? Let's start with you, Jill.
Well, I'm very excited by it
Good.
because I do like to talk. So when I get in front of a live audience, I feel like that is something I'm more familiar with. Being videotaped or going on a podcast is very new to me.
Mhm.
So I'm sure that is going to shift my style on the audience and who's tuning in. And so that's going to be different. And I have to say, I love being in a space right now where I am learning. So there's periods of your career where you just do the same thing over and over again, and that is successful.
Mhm.
And you do need to spend the time to Paula's point, you have to put your time in. But now it's odd that I am becoming an expert and somebody does want to know my opinion. So
Mm.
being able to craft it in a way that's both entertaining and informative is different. It makes me sweat, it makes me stressed a little bit, but it's a good stress because it's growing me and I know it's growing me, but I'm definitely putting myself out there in a way that I haven't had to do before.
Yes, I love that. I love that. I think it is, as you mentioned, you are the expert. And I would say to make the next step, you're actually the thought leader. Now you're
Yeah.
moving into that thought leadership, which is that people are asking you, like, what, talk to us about this topic, talk to us about that topic. They're demanding, and that all that thought leadership, of course, is based on your stories, your experiences, your all of the expertise that you build. So now you're moving to that thought leadership space, which I love to see, of course. Michelle, how about for you? What has it been like shifting
I was
from?
going to say, Diane, I think you hit it. For
uh,
me, I have done a ton of either presentations and or places where I've had to be in conferences or something where I'm the expert, right? And I'm talking about that expertise, whether it's a new computer system or software, and we've integrated it into our system, and I'm speaking about that. And so I'm very much used to that. I am not used to the next level, which is putting the vulnerability out there, maybe not talking about something that I'm an expert at, right? Do I feel like I'm an expert at using your voice? Not necessarily, but I find a passion in it. And because I found a passion in it, then it comes out a little bit better with stories and with, showing examples and that kind of thing. So I do think for me, it was a little bit leap. I'm so used to the PowerPoints that are, this is the slide, and this is the slide, and this is the slide, and here's that. And then this is like, throw up on me, and I'm like, oh, I don't really know what I'm supposed to be doing with this slide.
But yet, look how you stepped into thought leadership.
Yeah.
I love to see it. Paula, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that I'm much like Jill in that I like to talk. Give me a platform and I'll talk about mental health, particularly all day long. You guys know that going through this with me, and my passion in that area. But I think moving into a little bit more personal, stories, sharing more and taking it to that next level. I mean, I think it really makes us a better leader to that new generation. I talked about it in my presentation in regards to, the differences in what our parents and how our parents really guided us in our job. You work at the same place forever, you work very hard to get what you want, and you sacrifice everything. And I think today's generation is saying, I'm not interested in doing that. And guess what? I'm not going to. And so I think by sharing a little bit less professional, put together Paula and more of a vulnerable, personable Paula, I think that it makes me connect with my workforce even more.
Absolutely, because you show your humanness, right? And your vulnerability, and then that resonates with them and they see, oh, I can be like her, or she gets me, right? So yeah, I agree with that. Um, well then let's talk a little bit about what the experience was like in the Thought Leader Academy. So you all are soon to be graduates of our Thought Leader Academy. And so tell us a little bit about what it was like in the academy, maybe what were your expectations? And then did it meet your expectations, or, what was it like going through that process of the group calls and the VIP day? So we'll start with you, Michelle.
So I will have to say, my expectation, um, well, I could say I was cautious about it. How about
Okay.
that? And it exceeded way
Oh,
beyond
good.
what my expectations
Hey.
were. And I think that's why I want to say that, is because I really kind of just thought that this was going to just be, oh, another, how do you give your presentation kind of
Mhm.
thing. And it wasn't. It was about how you not only put together what you want to say, but then creating that dimension after dimension of your talk. And when you do it as an expert, like I said, it's just a flat out, here's what I'm going to talk about, and you expertise, you have it. But here you have to think of what's the next level, and what's the next level, and who's my audience, and could this be my audience, and could that be my audience? And then, like you said, bringing in all kinds of different stories for those different audiences is really what I learned the most. So it exceeded every expectation for me.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. I'm so happy to hear that it was such a good experience and that it just took you, like you said, to the next level, which is what we
Yeah,
want. That's what we're
yeah,
looking for, is to help we're always going to push, right? We want to push
yeah,
you to the next thing, because we know that you can do that.
yeah.
Paula.
I would say I was a little bit like Michelle. I was apprehensive at
Mm.
first. What is this going to be
Yeah.
about? But excited at the same time. I love to learn. I love to continue to learn. And so I was excited. I think the thing that I realized is that I've done a lot of presentations in my professional career, and I've done some personal presentations as well. But I think what I love about what we learned in this process is that I have always done my presentation, and then it was, in my bank of presentations. But what I love about this is, for example, the presentation that I built, I can change a few things and I can make it applicable to multiple different audiences. I chose to use young adult, young females as my audience with this, but I can easily change this into being working professionals, those of us that are, in the midpoint or end of our career and what that looks like, related to mental health. And so that was just one more thing for me to kind of put in my toolbox as a tool when I am being thoughtful in building presentations, not to just build it and put it, do it and put it away, but that I can utilize it moving forward. And the process of that was great.
Good. Yeah. I think that's a really great point because then you, like you said, you don't have to just tuck it away and like, oh, I did that. Now pull it out and say, okay, I've got to talk for a different group. How can I use some of these same stories or the same framework and then make it relevant for them? So you're not reinventing the wheel every time and you're building on that message of thought leadership that you've already started to develop. Great. All right, Jill, thoughts, your experience in
Well, I
TLA?
would say I loved the invitation or the card that you all send out. It's a handwritten card thanking us for joining. I thought that was very personable. I loved how packaged everything was. So you gave us our materials up front. So it wasn't just like an online program where it feels disconnected. It felt very warm and connecting, which I guess is a lot harder to do when you're virtual. And then also having all the content that you served us up and the homework between sessions. So it wasn't just what we learned being in our group, but what we did in between sessions, which was the most valuable. And so for anyone looking to join the program, you do have to put the work in. So I know that both of our coaches are professors, and so they work in a college format, and so they actually do
Can you
require
tell?
you to do things. Yes, and Michelle and I always would kind of like sidebar and say, we're doing our homework, and it's funny because in my professional life now, I coach leaders. And so it takes me out of the expert coach role and puts me back in the student role. And I was thinking about my homework when I was going to bed or waking up in the morning. It was on the top of my mind. And I'm thinking of my stories and, how much should I share? And you really made us think. And I think that's what I love so much about this program is it wasn't just a sit and get and then move on. It literally shaped me thinking about using ChatGPT differently, using Google alerts differently. I mean, you guys really challenged me. And I would say you give feedback in love, which I respect because you didn't just yes us to death and say, oh, that was so great. And whether you thought it was great or not, you actually said, no, I want you to do this. But it didn't feel hurtful. It really felt like I'm going to have to change that. So I wrote all my notes and I changed my presentation and it was a very interesting time.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. So I guess the fact that we teach at university it does show because we do approach it in a very teachery way. But to that point of sort of pushing you and like giving you feedback in love, I'll actually start with you, Jill, with our next question, which is what's next for you? Because I know that I think it was during a group call, and I just happened to find this conference that I thought you should apply to. And then like, here you go, you should apply to this. And you did. And so
Yeah.
tell us what is next for you as a thought leader and speaker?
So, because you were able to find me an opportunity to speak in, I used your recommendation of matching my framework to the application process. I used ChatGPT. It gave me a really fun way to connect my framework to the call for speakers they had. So I submitted to one of the industry associations that we belong to on a national platform. I applied. I'll find out in February if I've been accepted, and I'm going to take my show on the road. And so that's something that I wouldn't have done as quickly without your support, but I feel ready. And so thank you for opening that door for me.
Oh, well, our pleasure. And we're like I said, we're always going to push you because we want you out there experiencing this, right? And getting your voice out there so that you can start to grow your speaker brand and then become an in-demand speaker and really have a voice. And so by putting yourself out there, that's how you start to do that. So kudos to you for taking the leap and just going for it. I love that. How about you, Paula? What's next for you as a speaker and thought leader?
Well, for this particular presentation, I have already scheduled to speak to a group of young women on a college campus, a university campus, in a sorority format. Super excited about that.
Yeah, that's great.
And because I have an in, my daughter is just received the president. She's the president of the sorority, of her sorority FAMU. And so hopefully I will be able to go to their national convention, apply to go to their national convention and speak to the girls on that national level.
Oh, fantastic. Well, you'll have to keep us posted on that. So many, many props to you and good luck with that talk. I know you're going to do great. I think your talk's really going to resonate with them. So I can't wait to hear how it goes for you. And Michelle, what is next for you as a thought leader and speaker?
Well, for me, I think it's a different um, platform that I'm looking for. And
Mhm.
so my show is going to be more local
Yeah,
and in maybe the comfort of my own home, maybe.
that's okay.
But I really kind of want to look at more podcasting and
Yes.
look at how I can reach actually a broader, diverse nursing across. Hopefully lots of different platforms by using a podcast that allows us to figure out ways to make nursing better, letting them find their voice, letting them embrace what really is, and hopefully get out of that pandemic world where we're still, looking at, oh gosh, we had all this stuff, and getting back into that joy of nursing. So that's what I'm looking right now. I'm looking at a couple different things. My marketing director is helping me look at those platforms, and hopefully we'll be able to do it on either Spotify or Apple. So we're looking at that right now.
Wonderful. Well, keep us posted on that. I can't wait to hear more about it. So I can't wait to see each of you use your voice in a way that really makes a big impact, which I know it will because obviously I know your talks. So I cannot wait to see you out there doing that. Keep us posted on that. And for everybody who is watching this, please connect with Jill, Michelle, and Paula on LinkedIn or anywhere that they are, but definitely on LinkedIn. Stay in touch and see what they're up to. Thank you all for coming and delivering 10 minutes of your talk to everybody today. It was fantastic. I loved seeing all of these talks come together. So for everybody watching, if you would like to join us and work on your signature talk, just like Paula, Jill, and Michelle did, you can join our Thought Leader Academy, which is speakingyourbrand.com/academy. Again, that is speakingyourbrand.com/academy to get more details and apply. And until next time,